You ever have those moments where you're just staring up at the ceiling, asking yourself those huge questions? Like, what is all this, really? Or how do I know if something's actually true? Or even, what does it even mean to be a good person? Well, if you have, then congratulations. You're already thinking like a philosopher. And hey, if that sounds a little intimidating, don't worry. This is not about memorizing a bunch of names you can't pronounce from dusty old books. It's about sharpening your own mind, learning to think more clearly about the world and your own place in it. So let's demystify it together.
All right, to tackle a subject this big, we're going to need a roadmap. So first up, we'll get right to the heart of what philosophy actually is. Then we're going to map out the main territories, kind of like an explorer. After that, we get practical. We'll talk about the rules of engagement for how to think philosophically. We'll even hook you up with a digital library of the best free resources out there. And then, the most important part, we'll get you ready to start your own journey.
So let's dive right in with the most basic question of all. When we say the word philosophy, what are we actually talking about?
Well, the word itself is our biggest clue. It comes from ancient Greek, philosophia. And if you break that down, you get philo, which means love, and sophia, which means wisdom. So philosophy at its absolute core is just that, the love of wisdom. It's not about pretending you know everything. It's about wanting to learn everything. It's this passionate, active search for answers to the biggest questions we can possibly ask. And for the ancient Greeks, this wasn't just some abstract idea. Sophia, wisdom, was a kind of ideal, almost like a goddess. You can see her personified right here in this carving. So for people like Plato, doing philosophy wasn't just an academic exercise. It was a deeply personal quest, a genuine love for the pursuit of understanding. Now, this love of wisdom covers a lot of ground. And honestly, it can feel a little overwhelming at first. But the good news is we can organize it. Think of what's coming next as our map of the major territories that philosophers have been exploring for centuries. And here's a quick look at that map. Just like a giant continent, philosophy has all these different regions, and each one has its own set of questions. You see things like ethics, logic, metaphysics. I know, it looks like a lot, but don't worry, we're just going to take a quick tour through the four biggest ones. First stop, metaphysics. This is where we ask the biggest, most mind-bending questions imaginable. What is reality anyway? Is this world we see all there is? What even is time? It's where you get into huge debates like free will versus determinism. I mean, are your choices really your own, or was everything kind of decided from the start? If you're asking about the fundamental nature of being, you are deep in the land of metaphysics. Okay, next we're heading over to epistemology. This is the study of knowledge itself. Now, that might sound really abstract, but think about it for a second. How do you actually know something instead of just believing it? You know the sky is blue, right? But how do you know that? Did you learn it from experience just by looking? Or is it something you can figure out with pure reason? This is a huge question in epistemology. Next up is ethics, and this is probably a term you've heard before. This is the branch that deals with morality. What is a good life? What makes an action right or wrong? This is where we get into those famous thought experiments, like the trolley problem. Should you sacrifice one person to save five? These are the questions that really guide how we live our lives and build our societies. And our final major stop is logic. Look, if philosophy is about building ideas, then logic is your toolbox. It's the study of good reasoning itself. It gives you the blueprints to build a really solid argument, and it also gives you the tools to spot the flaws in a weak one. Without logic, philosophy is, well, it's just a bunch of opinions. Okay, so we have our map, we know what philosophy is all about. Now let's talk about how you actually do it. There are some, let's call them rules of engagement for really thinking like a philosopher. Right, so you can't read a philosophy text like it's a novel you take to the beach. It's a much more active process. You can break it down into these 4 steps. First, you have to consider the context. Who wrote this? Why did they write it? Second, you need to hunt for the central thesis, the main point the author is trying to prove. Third, you become a detective and track down the specific arguments they use to support that point. And finally, and this is the key part, you get to be the judge. You assess those arguments. Are they solid? Does the logic actually work? And that last step, assessing the arguments, brings us to a really important idea. As this quote says so well, philosophy isn't some debate club where you're trying to score points. It's not a competition. It's really more of a team sport where everyone is working together towards the same goal, getting a little bit closer to the truth. For centuries, doing this kind of work meant you needed to get into some pretty exclusive libraries. But today, well,
Today, the greatest philosophical resources in history are available to pretty much anyone with an internet connection. Let's take a look at your new digital library. So, where do you begin your search? Let me introduce you to your two new best friends. First, there's the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, or just the SEP. This thing is the absolute gold standard. It's like a university-level encyclopedia on any topic you can think of, written by world experts. Now, it can be a little dense sometimes, but it's amazing. Then, if you want something that's more focused on what philosophers are debating right now, check out Philosophy Compass. It's fantastic for that. And once you start getting into it, you can level up with these power tools. PhilPapers is just a massive directory of academic papers on pretty much anything. The Notre Dame Philosophical Reviews are great for getting expert summaries of the most important new books. And here's a little pro tip. Set up a Google alert for a topic or a philosopher you're interested in. You'll get all the latest research sent right to you. So, we looked at what philosophy is, how you do it, and where to find the tools. You are officially ready to go from being a spectator to being a participant, to join a conversation that's been going on for thousands of years. I mean, really think about it for a second. You have the map of the main fields. You have the rules for how to engage with these big ideas. And you have a library that philosophers just a generation ago would have, well, they couldn't have even dreamed of it. The journey is all yours now. So I'll leave you with this one challenge. After this quick tour, from the nature of reality all the way to the tools of logic, what is the one big question that's really sparked your curiosity? What's the one thing you're ready to start exploring?